The bell above the diner door gave a tired little ring every time someone walked in, the kind of sound you only hear in places that have survived longer than most people expected them to. Rosie's diner sat on the edge of a forgotten highway. The paint faded, the vinyl booths cracked, but the coffee was hot and the memories were warm. At the far corner booth, beneath a framed black and white photo of soldiers from another era, sat an old man eating breakfast alone. His hands shook slightly as he lifted his coffee cup, the veins on them standing out like thin blue ropes, but he held himself with a quiet dignity that age had not taken away. His name was Walter Hayes. He was 81 years old. And once, long ago, he had worn his country's uniform into places most men never returned from. Walter came to Rosie's every Thursday morning at exactly 8 o'clock. He ordered the same thing every time, 2 eggs over easy, dry toast and black coffee. He tipped generously, spoke politely, and never complained. The waitress, Jenny, always made sure his coffee cup never went empty. She knew his story, at least the parts he had shared. Korea, a winter that never ended. Friends who never came home. He never talked about medals. He never talked about heroes. He talked about silence, and the older he got, the quieter he became. That morning felt different from the start. The door swung open hard, the bell ringing sharply, and 3 men walked in laughing too loudly. Leather jackets, heavy boots. The smell of cigarettes and cheap cologne followed them like a warning. They were young, maybe late 20s or early 30s, with the kind of confidence that comes from believing the world owes you something. The leader, a thick-necked man with a scar running down his cheek, scanned the diner like he owned it. His eyes landed on Walter's booth. "Hey, old man," he said loudly. "You almost done with that seat?" Walter looked up slowly. His eyes were pale blue, steady, calm. "There are empty booths," he said quietly. The man smirked and walked closer. "I like this one." Jenny hurried over. "Sir, please," she said, forcing a polite smile. "There are plenty of—" "Did I ask you?" The man snapped, not even looking at her. Walter sighed and reached for his wallet. "I'll be finished soon," he said. No need for trouble. Something about that word, trouble, seemed to amuse the man. He leaned in close, invading Walter's space, towering over him. "You hear that?" He laughed to his friends. "The old guy thinks he decides things." The diner had gone quiet now. Forks paused midair. Coffee cups stopped clinking. Everyone felt it, the shift, the tension, the moment where something small could turn ugly. Walter stood slowly, carefully pushing himself up from the booth. His knees protested, but he didn't show it. "I fought in a war," he said calmly. "I've seen enough trouble for one lifetime. Let's not add more. That should have ended it. But bullies don't look for peace. They look for reaction." The man's smile disappeared. "You fought in a war?" he said mockingly. "What, against arthritis?" The laughter from his friends was sharp and cruel. Walter didn't respond. He simply turned slightly, reaching for his plate, intending to leave. That's when it happened. The slap echoed through the diner like a gunshot. The man struck Walter across the face with the back of his hand, hard enough to knock him sideways. The old man stumbled, his glasses flying off, clattering onto the floor. He didn't fall, but he came close. Jenny screamed. Someone shouted. Walter steadied himself against the table, his cheek already reddening, his jaw clenched in pain and shock. For a moment, the diner froze. The man laughed. "Should have stayed home, Grandpa." Walter slowly straightened. He did not raise his fists. He did not shout. He simply reached down, picked up his glasses with trembling hands, and wiped them carefully on his napkin. When he looked up again, his eyes were wet, not from pain, but from something far deeper. Humiliation. Memory. The kind of hurt that has nothing to do with age. "I didn't survive bullets," he said quietly, "to be slapped by a coward." That was when the man shoved him. Walter lost his balance and collapsed into the booth. His breath knocked from his chest. Plates shattered. Coffee spilled. Jenny rushed to him, kneeling at his side. "Call the police," someone yelled. The man rolled his shoulders, proud of himself. "Relax," he said. "I was just teaching him respect." Walter coughed, struggling to breathe. His hand shook as he reached into his jacket pocket, not for a weapon, but for something folded and worn. A photograph. Jenny noticed it as it slipped from his fingers onto the table. A younger man stood beside Walter in the picture, both wearing military uniforms, arms slung over each other's shoulders, smiling wide. On the back, written in faded ink, were 3 words. My son, 1972. Jenny picked it up, her heart pounding. Sir, she said to the thug, her voice shaking with anger. His son is... The diner door opened again. The bell rang. But this time the sound felt heavier. Boots stepped inside. Not one pair, many. Engines rumbled outside, low and powerful like distant thunder. The laughter died instantly. The man with the scar turned toward the door, irritation on his face until he saw who was standing there. A tall man in his late 50s entered first. Long, gray-streaked hair pulled back. Leather vest. Tattoos crawling up his arms like living history. His eyes scanned the room and locked onto Walter slumped in the booth. Everything else disappeared. Behind him, filling the doorway and spilling onto the sidewalk, were men like him. Dozens. Leather. Patches. The unmistakable winged, skull stitched onto their backs. The Hell's Angels. The tall man's jaw tightened. His voice was calm, but it carried. Dad, he said. Walter looked up slowly. And for the first time that morning he smiled,